Hey, I know you guys were looking for an update to my trials and tribulations with my first official act of gunsmithing, installing the Cajun Gun Works short reset trigger system, race hammer, and Type 2 disconnector in my CZ75 P-01. So here is my filthy, recently range tested P-01. First, a quick recap of the issue that I had. Um, what was happening was, even after I'd installed everything, the double action was great, the single action was good. What was not right was the reset, and what was going on there, I should show you. I also while I had it apart, polished up this trigger bar a bit, tops here, both sides, as well as the sort of the face of the trigger bar that rides underneath the sear cage. What was happening on reset was, as the trigger bar moved forward, as you're releasing the trigger, about right there, it would pop north and provide like a mechanical feedback in the trigger. At that point, what had happened is the trigger bar had sort of reset the actual sear without also resetting the firing pin block lifter, which meant that at that point, it was before the click, right? That's the click you hear is when it's reset beyond the firing pin block lifter. At that point, right, during that reset, I could actually pop the sear and send the hammer onto a blocked firing pin. And, it would obviously result in a misfire or malfunction drill at that point. I never actually took it to the range under those conditions because I discovered it while I was just playing with the gun before complete reassembly, right? I fixed it thanks to Dave at Cajun Gun Works, who provides remarkable support for the excellent parts that he sells and ships quickly. I mean, there's nothing bad to say about Cajun Gun Works. Phenomenal experience overall. A quick conversation with him revealed that the trouble I was having was an improperly tensioned trigger bar support spring. And that support spring is this horseshoe-like spring that rides underneath this trigger bar. Let's see if I can get you a better shot of that from below. There you see the two ends of it. There's one end there, and then the other. I don't know if I'll be able to show you this. That's one end there. So, and there's the other end there. Now, both of those, they kind of curve up and they ride in a groove that you may or may not be able to see here at the bottom of that trigger bar. That's a little bit better, maybe. What was happening is that this arm of the support spring was providing too much tension on the trigger bar, causing this side to pop up before this side was popping up. It was a problem from the factory, and it just wasn't evident until you reduce, the room for error or tolerance by installing, higher performance parts that have a little bit stricter tolerance. So, that was it. All I had to do was take a pick and sort of gently adjust by pushing down on this spring a couple times and hold it so that it was providing the right amount of upward tension on that trigger bar. I'm a numbskull. This is my first time doing this. I was able to do it with no problem. At the end, the only thing I had to do was at the very end kind of come back through, and as I was pushing down, I didn't pull the trigger bar out. It was just exactly like this while I was adjusting that spring. As I was pushing down, because of the angle I was at, I was also kind of pushing out. So in order to get that spring back in the groove, I had to come in this way and sort of pull it back in a bit. But now it rides smooth, and my reset is gorgeous. Bam, reset. It's so good. So that fixed my problem. So now that the problem's fixed, let's talk about how good this trigger is, shall we? First, we gotta, put the slide on. I don't need to put the grips on for this, so I'm not going to. You can get to see the sexy blue mainspring that came with the short reset trigger system on this otherwise disgustingly filthy gun. That's been frog lubed too, so this is my first experience with frog lube on top of it. All right, let's go through from Decock, the double action trigger. You can compare this to the before video that I posted just a couple days ago. All right, a little bit of take up here, and then, oh, so much smoother and quite a bit lighter too. That is a much better trigger. That's so good. Still not quite as smooth as, say, my SIG, but the pull's lighter. The SIG P-02 Tactical Operations has just a remarkably smooth. SIGs just have remarkably smooth triggers. Even if the reach is long, even if the weight's heavy, the pull of it is generally really smooth. And this one will get there. I've got about 300, a little over 300 rounds to this gun now. And, it's going to take a while to smooth that out, but it will smooth. Still, though, it's still so much smoother than it was before, and part of that might have been due to my polishing work, but most of that I have to attribute to, the lighter mainspring here, and then the race hammer with the I get the ringed version of this Cajun Gun Works race hammer. So one more time. See, it gets a little bit more resistance there. It's not the smoothest or most even pull, but it's so much better than it was. It's ridiculous. All right, single action. Single action, there's a little bit of take up. All right. Gone, though, is that second phase, which I thought was staging the sear on the face of the hammer. Might have been actually just actuating the firing pin block. Either way, what used to happen is I'd get through take up and there'd be like a little bit of mush before I got to the break and then the break. Now, though, a little bit of take up. As soon as you hit resistance, it's ready to break. Bam, broken. Ah, and light, man. This is way lighter. Before I was probably in the 6-pound range. Now I wouldn't be surprised if I'm just south of 4 now. It's yeah, maybe even it's really light. It's good. Not as light as my CZ75 SP-01 Shadow Custom from the CZ Custom Shop, but the purposes between these, between the two guns are vastly different. One's a competition gun intended for, IDPA or USPSA. This one, or IPSC, I guess even, this one is my everyday carry. So I didn't want a competition grade trigger on here, but I just wanted it better, and it's way better. All right, let's talk reset. From the reset, or from, shot fired, back off the trigger, bam, clear mechanical reset. After the reset, there's still a little bit of take up. It's just like the regular single action, and then bam, break. It's good. Wow, this is so much better. It's good. Still not in the same class. I mean, there's some things I can still do to this. It's still not in the same class as my Shadow Custom, and I don't want it to be. I know I said that already, but let's just go back through this one and show you. And clean and clear, unlike the unclean and clear P-01. It's my SP-01 Shadow. Let's do the double action pull. This is how I shoot it in competition, right there. Ready? It's about the same degree of smooth, but this one's a lot lighter. This has had a few more rounds through it, but not a lot. I'm probably in the 500 range at this point. All right, single action though, right? The resting position's a lot further back because all of that slack is now gone. And part of that's probably, who knows, it's a myriad of reasons. But it's got the 85C adjustable trigger here, which is helpful too. All right, so just almost imperceptible take up to just a really light break, like really light break. All right, let's do the reset so you can see. Bam, just almost no movement at all, and it breaks again. That's just a competition reset, is what that is. This one, though, for its part, is pretty close, right? I mean, for a defensive handgun, that's freaking phenomenal. Okay, that's that. So here's some footage of me shooting it. I took it to the range tonight with a buddy of mine, and he shot it, I shot it. We even let some other people shoot it who were there, and we all loved it. This is 10 rounds, about 21 feet or so. We were actually on the rifle range. The pistol range wasn't ready for us to shoot on. So the lighting's a little weird, short, but 10 shots, rapid at the end. The last 5 were pretty damn fast, and it was just on target and good. Yeah, it's good. So there's a few other things I'll probably end up doing to this before I call it done. I want to replace that trigger bar spring because I pulled it out a couple times and managed to keep it, coherent. But for my own peace of mind, I'll probably want to replace that. When I do that, Cajun Gun Works sells a slightly upgraded spring for the trigger, right? Just a little trigger spring, which cuts about a ½ pound off the double action pull. I think that would be the perfect sweet spot for that. I want to replace the sights. I'm not a huge fan of these sights. They're okay, but in weird lighting, they just sort of disappear. It's fine. It's a point and shoot. It's really easy to point and shoot this gun, but still, maybe the True Glow night sights, which are kind of drop-in replacements, or the I think High Vis sells some that look pretty interesting. In a perfect world, I get a black rear sight with a narrow gate and a fiber optic front, but I need this thing to draw, right? I need it to be able to draw and not snag. I need to be able to wear it comfortably, so I couldn't convert over to a sight arrangement like this. That would be extremely jabby, and that would probably grab on something. So, yeah, I gotta try and find a better sort of defensive sights, and I'll keep my eyes out. If you guys have some suggestions, though, I'm all ears. Totally open to your experience with whatever sights you use on your CZ75 P-01. But that's it. The pistol's much better. Huge kudos to Cajun Gun Works for a great product and great support of a great product and being really easy to talk to and available. I can't say anything. I can't think of better praise for Cajun Gun Works. They really did me right. I'm gonna get back to cleaning this thing and frog lubing the snot out of it. Till we talk again. Shoot often, shoot safe.